Hi there, Medical Wildcats. I'm Joseph Guggenheim. I'm a 1972 alum of the medical school, and this month I will be speaking on the Chicago hot dog, meat in a bun, Chicago style. It is appropriate that we be doing this because the third Wednesday of every July has been designated as National Hot Dog Day. What do you think about when you think of Chicago? Is it the political situation, the lake, culture and the arts, perhaps education, the Bean or the Willis Tower, sports teams, and everybody has their own favorite, deep dish pizza, everybody has their favorite there too. But for many, they would say it is the Chicago hot dog, meat in a bun, plus the magnificent 7 condiments as shown in this picture. To avoid confusion, I'm going to arbitrarily make the following definitions. I will call the frank the tubular piece of pulverized meat that goes inside the sandwich. It's often called a hot dog, but so is the sandwich, also called frankfurter or wiener. The hot dog I'm going to designate as the sandwich made with a tubular piece of this meat enveloped in bread. It's sometimes served with condiments such as mustard or relish. Let's go back and look at the origins of the sausage and the hot dogs. I'm sorry, the frank. The sausage was one of the oldest forms of processed meat, and it is even mentioned in Homer's Odyssey. To quote, as when a man besides a great fire has filled a sausage with fat and blood and turns it this way and that and is very eager to get it quickly roasted. Sounds rather sickening to me. Gaius has often been credited with making the first sausage in the 1st century. He was the cook of the Roman Emperor Nero Claudius Caesar. Pigs at that time were traditionally starved for a week before cooking and eating them. After roasting one pig, Gaius noticed that the intestines were puffed up and hollow, so he filled them with ground beef, ground venison, and spices. In the 7th century, St. Simeon the Fool took a string of sausages and wore them around his neck like a necklace, thus the term the Fool, I think. He dipped them in mustard and ate them all day. It's been said that the frankfurter was developed in Frankfurt, Germany in 1484. The legend is that Johann Jorgenher, a butcher in Coburg, Germany, invented a little dog or dachshund sausage and traveled to Frankfurt to promote his product. In the 19th century, citizens of Vienna, as shown at the pushpin in the blue area of the map, point to the term as the proof that Vienna was the birthplace of the frank. The master butcher in Vienna, who claimed to have made the first frank, trained in Frankfurt, shown at the red arrow on the left. He claimed he made the first frank and called it Wienerwurst, or Vienna sausage. Chicago took its place as the meat capital of the world during the 19th century. Carl Sandburg called Chicago the hog butcher of the world. Following the Confederate blockade of Cincinnati during the Civil War, Chicago became the leading meatpacking center in the U.S. until the 1920s. The industry leaders included Philip Armour, Gustavus Swift, and Oscar Mayer. The frank came to Chicago with the German immigrants. Germans were the largest immigrant group in Chicago, especially north of the Chicago River. By the end of the 19th century, 25% of Chicago was either German-born or first-generation German. In the 1880s, 36% of the butchers in Chicago were German. And like all immigrant groups, German immigrants brought their cuisine, including sausage, with them. The Frankfurter sausage was a skinny tubular mixture of beef, pork, and spices. Chicago is the meatpacking capital of the world, and butchering pigs and cattle came from all over the Midwest. The introduction of a steam-powered meat chopper allowed factories to turn less desirable meat products and trimmings into a street food. Chicago's oldest frank brand, David Berg, was founded in 1860, before the Civil War. Franks were sold at the 1860 GOP convention in Chicago. The company introduced hot dogs at a White Stockings baseball game in 1901. A second wave of German immigrants, this time Jewish, introduced the all-beef frank. The meatpacking industry had a bad reputation after the publication of Upton Sinclair, The Jungle. Consumers thought the Jewish kosher style product was a safer and purer Frank. The term kosher style refers to the seasoning with high garlic and paprika contents. Kosher Frank refers to a Frank made under rabbinical supervision. The Jewish immigrants became the new kings of the Chicago hot dog game. Samuel Ladany and Emil Reichel, two Jewish immigrants from Austria-Hungary, opened their own business, selling all beef Franks with a natural casing, which was processed sheep intestines. The sales from their cart on the street and later at the 1893 Columbian Exposition flourished. Following their success, they established a larger business and named it Vienna Beef in recognition of the pinnacle of sausage cities. And the Vienna beef continues to be made today with the same recipe, all beef Franks, and the natural casing. The Chicago hot dog evolved in Chicago and also with the help of other cities. The German peddler Antoine Feuchtwanger sold hot dogs on the streets of St. Louis, supplying customers with white gloves so they would not burn their hands. Customers would walk off with the gloves, cutting into his profits. His wife suggested he put the hot sausages in a bun instead. His brother-in-law was a baker who made soft rolls to fit the sausage, and Feuchtwanger called these red hots. Sam Rosen, who was a Polish immigrant, learned baking techniques in Germany, and he came to Chicago in 1909. Rosen introduced the poppy seed bun, an essential component of Chicago hot dogs. New York also made a contribution to the evolution of the Chicago dog. On a cold day in April 1902, at the old New York Polo Grounds, a vendor, Harry Mosley Stevens, was losing money trying to sell ice cream and cold drinks at a New York Giants baseball game. He sent his salesmen out to buy all the Dachshund sausages and rolls they could find. His vendors started yelling, "They're red hot. Get your Dachshund sausages while they're red hot." There's a legend that Tad Dorgan, a cartoonist for the New York Evening Journal, drew a cartoon with a Frankfurter with tails, legs, and a head. He was unsure how to spell dachshund, so he just called them hot dogs. The story cannot be verified, however, because no one could find the cartoon. At a ball game in St. Louis in 1905, food vendor Adolf Gehring placed Franks in a roll which were split. A customer yelled, "Give me one of those damn hot dogs." Back in Chicago, street vendors on Maxwell Street, who had been selling vegetables from their carts, saw the potential of sales in hot dogs, and many added hot dogs to their merchandise. Vendors began to experiment with adding hot peppers, cabbage, and celery salt to the standard topping of mustard and pickles. Adding vegetables to the sandwich was known as dragging it through the garden. Vendors piled the dogs high with vegetables and transformed a single dog into a more filling and nutritious sandwich. In the 1930s, the Depression sandwich was a hot dog piled high with peppers, mustard, pickles, onion, tomato, and celery seed, and sold for 5 cents, as seen in the picture. Local hot dog stands appeared where you could chat with friends over a cheap meal. In 1929, Mickey Mouse's first words ever spoken in a animated cartoon were hot dogs, in the short movie, The Carnival Kid. So how do you make a Chicago hot dog? Well, there's certain steps you must take. The bun should be steamed. The Frank should be steamed to 180 or 170 degrees, and they could be boiled or grilled, but steaming is preferred. The Frank can be placed in boiling water, and then the boiling can be stopped, pot uncovered, and the Frank removed in 20 minutes. The Frank, not the bun, should be dressed, and the order of insertion of these 7 condiments is important. First, begin with a poppy seed bun and an all-beef Frank, and then add yellow mustard, never Dijon or coarse grain, neon green relish, chopped white onion, tomato wedges and slices, a kosher dill pickle slice or spear, 2 peppers, and a dash of celery salt. When you finish, the meat should be just barely visible. And how do you order a Chicago hot dog? Well, you say, I'll take a Chicago hot dog with the works or with everything, but don't say drag through the garden, and never ever ask for ketchup. There are rumors that the police in Chicago could arrest you for putting ketchup on a hot dog within the Chicago city limits. And how do you eat a Chicago hot dog? Well, the correct stance is essential, as seen on the right. It should be consumed in 5 or 6 bites. The correct stance is lean well forward, elbows braced on the table or counter, center of gravity just anterior to your xiphoid. If wearing a tie, it should be thrown over the shoulder. Use poppy seed, sesame seed, or plain buns. Sun-dried buns or basil buns are considered gauche. Use plastic or paper plates, no fine china. No utensils are allowed. You must use your hands. Paper napkins should be used, not cloth napkins. You should eat the entire bun and not leave the end. Water, beer, and lemonade are permissible. Wine is not permitted. Never, ever add ketchup to a Chicago dog. We all must grow up sometime. And do not write a thank you note after a hot dog party. It would be considered pretentious. Never put ketchup on a Chicago hot dog. Mike Royko, the famous Chicago newspaper columnist, said, I won't condemn anyone for putting ketchup on a hot dog. This is the land of the free. And if someone wants to put ketchup on a hot dog and actually eat the awful thing, that is their right. It is also their right to put mayo or chocolate syrup or toenail clippings or cat hair on a hot dog. Sure, it would be disgusting and perverted, but they would be shaming their loved ones. But under our system of government, it is their right to be barbarians. Former President Barack Obama, leader of the free world and our commander-in-chief, said in 2016, ketchup on a hot dog is unacceptable after the age of 8. So there you have it. So let's look at the recent history of the Chicago hot dog. The Vienna Beef Company bought out David Berg, and Vienna Beef continues to use the same recipe. Bull meat, not cow meat, because bull meat is redder and it has more protein, natural casing, and unchanged smoking technique. There are more hot dog stands in Chicago than McDonald's, Wendy's, and Burger King combined. The Alpha Baking Company now owns Sam Rosen's Bakery and produces 5 million buns every week, 95% of Chicago's supply. More hot dogs are sold at O'Hare International Airport than any other location in the world. Contrary to popular belief, Abe Froman is not the Sausage King of Chicago. The real Sausage King is Jim Bodman, the CEO of Vienna Beef, who has worked at Vienna Beef for more than 50 years. In a more serious and sad note, we lost Ann Lurie in June 2024, last month. She was a friend and a major donor to the university and the hospital. After the doctors at the old Children's Memorial Hospital saved the life of one of her children, she pledged $100 million to a new hospital to be built at the downtown campus. Robert H. and Ann Lurie Children's Hospital has become one of the premier children's hospitals in the world, and they will soon expand to the adjacent American Dental Association property next door. Ann donated to many causes in Chicago and also around the world, including health and educational facilities in Africa. It is rare to see a photograph of Ann without a smile on her face. She said, I refer to some philanthropic concern as hovering in a helicopter, throwing out money. But philanthropy doesn't mean just giving away money. In the dictionary, it means loving one's fellow man. Ann truly loved what she did and her fellow man.